are live. Awesome. It says we're live. No, now it says waiting for it to start. I have no idea. Come on. Can we have just... There we go. I see myself. Perfect. Okay, so today, let's get this going like this instead. Today, we are talking about what is enough in our homeschool and what counts as learning. And it sounds like it's kind of two different things, but they're connected, okay? So bear with me. If you are new to me, my name is Daisy. I am a certified teacher, veteran homeschooling mom, and I am really passionate about helping homeschool moms get through all the different struggles that come with homeschooling. Like, that's just life. Sharing a lot of what I've learned and things that I've learned even since then that I wish I had known back then. So this whole topic came about because, and I kind of talked about, ways we could look at language arts. Like, this was a few weeks ago or last month. I looked at ways we could look at language arts activities without a curriculum, right? This isn't really the same thing. It's kind of related, but everything's kind of related. So I've been seeing people post on homeschooling groups lately, things like, and I see it every year. Is this math curriculum enough, or will I need to supplement? Is this curriculum enough? Well, is this enough? Is this enough? Is this enough? And then at the end of the school year, there's always, I feel like we didn't do enough, or things like that, right? So that's where this came from. People kind of wondering, like, well, is it enough? Is it enough? Is it enough? So my first question for you, I just realized the way I have this set up, I won't be able to see Facebook comments. That's okay. So my first question to you, and please share in the chat, comments, wherever you are, whatever you do, if you're watching a replay or not. So is it enough for who, or for whom, if we want to get grammatically correct? Is it enough for whom? Think about that for a second. So is it enough for you? And like, maybe that's a silly question for me to ask. Maybe it sounds like a silly question for me to ask because, like, well, if you knew if it were enough for you, then you wouldn't be asking the question, right? A lot of homeschool moms don't stop and really think about what they want from their homeschool, what their vision is, keeping in mind their kids, because I will admit I had one vision for what my homeschooling would be. And then once I actually knew my kids, it turned into something completely different. But I still had this vision. I knew that I needed to change this vision. I needed to change my goals. I needed to change. I needed to create something that was going to resonate with me and wasn't simply, some outside standards or anything like that. So if you haven't stopped to think about what is important to you, all right? What are your goals? What are your long range goals in terms of like all the years you're going to homeschool? And what are your shorter term goals? Your goals are going to depend a lot on the age of your children, your personal philosophy, all kinds of things, right? So like my goals for my son, let's say my goals for my son when he hit high school age were different, or just about hitting high school age were different from my goals for when he was, a little boy, because it didn't matter so much when he was 11 and not writing, but it started mattering when he was 14 and not writing, right? So the goals change. We need to revisit our goals. We can't just assume that the reason we started homeschooling, that's just going to be our goals. That's going to frame everything. And that's just it. Okay. So you need to stop and figure out, I suggest you stop and figure out a vision for your homeschool if you haven't already. Maybe you'll do it in writing. Maybe you'll just think about it. Maybe you'll talk with somebody about it. Okay. I'll get to you, Stormy. Oh, sorry, I should focus on this and then get to the comments in a little bit. So figure out your vision, okay? And actually, Stormy's comment in Facebook is related to this, in that people are disagreeing with her and saying she's not doing enough, right? Other people don't get to decide your vision. All right. Other people don't get to decide your vision, don't get to decide your long range goals, and they might give you flack for that. You know what? I'm going to write down this idea for a topic. You know, this feels like it should be a whole topic, a whole live video in itself. Dealing with difficult, skeptical family. All right. And friends and all that. All right, so figure out your vision. Figure out your vision regardless of what other people are going to think about it, regardless of what you're seeing around you too. I've so many moms in the past, oh gosh, I think 6 months, I've interacted with who have, they've seen something, they know somebody who has something set up some way, and then they're seeing other people do the same thing, or they're seeing on Instagram or websites or YouTube or things like that. And it seems like they've got it all together. And maybe those moms do, or maybe that they're just showing you the all together parts and not the rest of the chaos and not all the stuff that brought them to that point. The reality is that there's no one way that's going to satisfy everybody's way for homeschooling. Like satisfy your goals, satisfy everybody's goals, satisfy your interests, satisfy your nature, right? So you need to kind of sit down, figure out for yourself what you want. Remember to include the kids in that vision, because when we forget who our kids are, that can really mess up our plans. Also I'd say, and think too in terms of, is your vision, like some people really do, they want, their goal is to exceed or supersede, I don't know what the correct word would be, the education the kids would be getting in school. Like they want to go above and beyond. They want to meet those standards and they want to go above and beyond. That could end up requiring a curriculum. And maybe they found a curriculum that does, like it fills all those different things for them. And that's their goal. That's their vision. If that's your vision, then great. Pick a curriculum, follow through on it, see how it works. Okay. For me, I thought I wanted a curriculum. I kept looking at curriculum for math, for all kinds of different things. And then part of me really wanted it, but I also knew that it wasn't going to work for my kids very well. So I have creative kids, I have neurodivergent kids, and the curriculum wasn't the thing. And so there's the thing though, is my vision wasn't just giving them an education. It was giving them an education that matched them, right? That matched them well, that helped them keep growing. So in terms of enough, like, is the curriculum enough for you? Is it meeting all the different things you want to check off? Is it, or if you're wanting to have, a little bit of base structure, but lots of room to do creative pursuits or interest-led pursuits, is the curriculum you're looking at going to give you that time? Right? Maybe, because a curriculum can be way too much for one family and not enough for another. So you need to kind of look at, if you're going into groups and asking, is this curriculum enough for math or whatever? Remember, you're asking different people if it's enough for them. You need to figure out if it's enough for you. All right. And you might not know that until you buy it and try it out. I'm sorry to say. Okay. Is it enough for your kids? Like if you decide, I'm thinking of a science curriculum here. Like let's say you find a great science curriculum, looks great, looks fun, and it only has touches on the topics just a tiny little bit, because the goal is just to get them interested and get them connected. But your kids really want to go deeper into those topics. That curriculum might not be enough on its own. Maybe you'll have to supplement, or maybe you'll want to find something else, or maybe you'll just let your kids dive down into research, right? Think about your kids. You need to ask the question, is the curriculum enough for your kids? And just because it's not necessarily enough content doesn't mean you shouldn't get it. Okay, let's let go of perfectionism. I know. We homeschool moms can be among the most perfectionist people in the entire world. I'm sure of it. So it's a great opportunity to practice kind of letting go, perfect, and seeing this for the journey that it is, the science experiment that it is, because when you take that approach, when you take it, it's something to explore, it's something to try and see. It completely changes how you feel about your curriculum choices and making decisions even. If you're trying to decide the right thing, it's going to freeze you up, right? Or you're going to doubt, you'll buy it, maybe use it a little bit, you're not sure, so you set it aside because you're looking for the right thing. There is no right thing, okay? There is no right thing. There's a good thing, there's a good fit, there's things that work, and you only know if they work once you try them, okay? It's a big science experiment. Let's see, just seeing other comments here. Your overseeing authority. I know not everybody here is from Alberta. In Alberta, we are pretty blessed with very open regulations for homeschooling. Some boards will make it a little more complicated, and it shouldn't be. Know the regulations and push back. But I do know not everybody watching this is from Alberta. There are some places where you do have to follow local standards, or you have to use a curriculum, or like there's certain requirements. So if that's the case, then you do need to kind of look at the requirements for your overseeing authority, but you get to and if a curriculum will match that, but you also get to decide if that's going to be the only part of your children's education or not. I have known people in the past who were really adamant about making sure their kids knew all, like they covered all the Alberta Program of Studies. They did it really quickly. And so their mornings, I think, were like Alberta Program of Studies time. And then the afternoon was all interest-led learning and field trips and projects and things like that. So the curriculum might be enough to meet your local authorities or whatever it is that you've got overseeing you for homeschooling, but still go back to, is it enough for you? Is it enough for your kids? What is that vision that you have for it to be enough? All right. I know some of you are thinking, well, just for their education in general, like, is it enough? Is this enough math? Like, are they going to get enough practice and all that? But again, it goes back so much to the kids' individuality and your vision and where you want to take them. And the more you stick on this idea that there's some magic standard that we're all working on, the harder it's going to be. Okay, there is no consensus. There is no consensus. There is nothing specific that you need to live up to in terms of what your kids are doing for math each year. And if there were, all the governments would have the exact same curriculum. There wouldn't be all these different homeschool curriculums, right? There wouldn't be all these different types of school covering different topics. Like there are unschoolers who don't use any curriculum. So that curriculum you're looking at and trying to decide if it's enough would be too much for the unschooler, right? And there are unschooling schools that would go, that's way too much for our kids. Our kids don't want that, right? So, you know what? I don't want to go into that. I was going to go into kind of specific. Maybe I should go into kind of specific. I was thinking about math. So let's say you pick Life of Fred comes to mind. Okay. Lots of people ask, is Life of Fred enough? Okay. Well, again, enough for you, enough for your kids, enough for meeting outside standards. You have to figure out what enough and compared to what, right? In reference to what. And then I know some of you are going to go, well, what do they need to, like, is it enough for what they need to know? Well, what do they need to know? I know I have talked or interacted with so many moms over, oh gosh, I don't know, probably since the beginning of my homeschooling days, although I didn't have quite the understanding that I do now of, there's very little in math that the kids need to know at any particular age, right? Our kids don't need to know how to multiply 5-digit numbers to each other. probably at any point. Like, they don't. If they're doing some sort of a test, if they're going to school, they would be really good if they did because they will get marked down, but they don't need to know it. How many of us need to know how to do that multiplication in our adult lives, right? They don't get tested on it in university. They're using calculators. So this need idea, again, has this is connected to this idea that there's this standard, this magical standard that you can't see yet, and you haven't figured out what it's on it, but it must be there, and you got to figure out if this is enough for them to meet that standard, right? Oh, just missing some comments here. I love Alberta. Yes, we've got some great rules, and we get funding if we register. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Let's see, what else did I have for notes here? Oh yeah, just I feel like so many of us homeschooling moms, we run on this internal belief, this internal script that there's this I want to stop using the word magical. There is this decided standard somewhere that we need to meet or we're failing our kids. And that's just not the case, because there is no one way for our kids to be educated. There is no one thing that they're going to absolutely need. Somebody will say, oh, but they need to read. Well, you know what? There are some dyslexics who are successful as adults who can't read, who will tell you that they don't need to read. So the need word really comes from perfectionism again. It's this all or nothing, black or white thinking, and it takes us away from what will help my kids move forward. And I realized that's my personal philosophy. That was what I focused on in our homeschooling, was what will move my kids forward? What is keeping them engaged in learning? And what is moving them forward on skills that, it would be good for them to have over time, right? So talked a lot about enough. And how is this related to what counts as learning, right? Because a lot of this enough question comes from this idea that there should be enough activities, enough practice, enough explanation, enough whatever in a curriculum for it to be the right thing to buy. Do you hear how this is all about perfectionism, and it's keeping things at ridiculous standard? They don't teach half of the stuff they teach at public school. Oh, so I might have missed that comment. Okay, so there's you know what, you brought up a good point. And this actually is to do with enough. There is far more to learn in this world than any of us can learn. There is far more. I actually felt very dismayed as an adult when I realized there was no way I was going to be able to read all the books that I wanted to read. It's that FOMO, right? That fear of missing out a bit, that fear of missing out on something that they need, the fear of missing out on something that as though there's some deadline. If they don't know it by a particular age, then they're doomed, right? If we can learn to learn, we can learn anything, right? And we don't even need to learn to learn. We're born to learn. We are made to learn. I think that the past 100 and some years of public schooling have kind of ingrained in us this idea that school is where we learn and we do everything else outside of school, or classes, right? Maybe like gymnastics classes or sports or stuff. And it's so bad, that idea is so bad. I saw on a nearby school, it's a couple years back, that they had put on their message board, like their outside message board for September, welcome back to learning. And that shocked me, infuriated me, a whole bunch of different emotions going on, because if those kids weren't learning anything all summer, what a loss. If they were just sitting on their sofas doing absolutely nothing, not even thinking, I mean, thinking is learning. Playing with friends is learning. It's building social skills. Dealing with your younger brother and sister is learning. Reading to your siblings is learning. Baking, cleaning. These are all skills that kids don't come built with. They need to learn. All right. And so a curriculum can have its place in learning. A curriculum is a tool, right? What do tools do? Tools are there to make things easier for us. If figuring out the tool is really, really hard, maybe you don't need that tool, okay? Or you can just let it go for a little bit and see if there are other tools you can use that will make it life easier for you. But a curriculum is a tool. It's not a requirement. It's kind of like saying if you were to go to Home Depot, you need a hammer. There's only one particular, you just need a general hammer, but you go and you have to have this one hammer. Well, no, you don't have to have that one hammer. You don't have to find the perfect hammer. You just need the tool that's going to help you put the nail in the wall. All right? So we overcomplicate curriculum, and so many, I don't know how many of you are brand new. I see you coming into the groups and being so focused on, we're new and I don't know which curriculum to use. You don't have to use a curriculum, okay? It's a tool, not a requirement. So take a step back and figure out those other things first of what are you wanting to do? What do your kids enjoy? What kinds of learning do you want to do with them? Because you don't have to teach them. You don't have to teach them everything, okay? But I'm getting off topic here. So a curriculum is there to serve you. It's a tool. And it's there and it makes life easy because it can give you topics. You don't have to go find them. It can give you lessons that you don't have to create. It can give you ideas about learning activities to do. Never, ever feel like you have to do every single activity in a curriculum. Okay. It's okay to skip pages, to not have the kids write on any of it. Okay. But that's just it. It's ideas of learning activities. There's so many other learning activities. Let me go back to this comment here on Facebook. Where was it? I don't know if I can find it easily. Oh, I don't think I don't think I can get this to cooperate with me. There are different life skills, outdoor skills. There are some kids, like my son. Okay, so here's a good story about enough. Did I teach my son enough in kindergarten, grade 1? Because when he got to grade 2, he was not reading at all. He was not writing at all. He was looking at books. He was looking at picture books to do with different animals and bugs and things like that. And we ended up buying, I ended up buying a kit, like a bunch of owl dissection pellets. Owl pellet dissections? I don't know. Owl pellets for dissection. So I found this picture popped up, I don't know, if last week or something. And there he is sitting there, all his gear, doing this owl pellet dissection at the age of 7. I don't even think he was quite 7 yet. He wasn't reading. He wasn't writing yet. But so what? Was I giving him enough? He knew how to build all kinds of things with Lego and Connects and all kinds of stuff. He knew how to take care of his little cousin whom I was babysitting her. He knew so many different things that had nothing to do with what goes on in school. And did I feel angst over the things coming up about him not reading yet? Yes. Especially, and I only was in the school system for a year before I had my daughter, and I didn't go back until my son was in high school and I was subbing. I wish I could have seen back then what I've seen in the past 6 years is in that grade 1 and grade 2 kids, there are so many who aren't reading yet and they're just not ready, right? our education and what counts as learning activities with our kids can't just be about a specific outcome, because we can't control their development. I said this to somebody the other day. I can't remember which group. We can't control their development. All we can do is control what experiences we give them. If you want curriculum to be their only learning experience, then do it. Find one that you like. Find one that works with them. If you want to do more than that, you can do more than that. If you want to do something completely other than curriculum, you can. All right, so think of this in terms of you as an adult. You are on here right now learning something. Did I have to give you a curriculum? Workbook pages? I mean, workbook pages are handy. That's a great way to kind of cement some learning. Like, I don't know how many of you guys go on live streams and trainings. I do it all the time. And often there's a workbook. People like workbooks. I admit it. I don't use them usually. I'll look at them, but I don't want to take the time to print it off and write it out. And because I'm more of an auditory learner anyhow, a lot of this stuff, if it's just notes, I just don't even need it. So, but as an adult, how do you tell me? Like, I see some of you are still on. Tell me in the comments, what do you do to learn things? Because it's not buying a curriculum. Yes, there might be some courses. Like I've purchased courses, but the bulk of your learning isn't coming from curriculum or courses. You go on YouTube, right? You Google, get answers. Anytime you're asking a question and getting an answer, that's learning. Anytime your kids ask a question about something and you go on Google with them and find the answer together, that's learning. It doesn't matter if it's 5, 10, 20 different topics in a day. It's all learning. It doesn't have to be some massive thing where they can write a 5-paragraph essay or a 10-page research project. All right. So reading, learning by interest. Yeah. So reading, learning by interest. Google. What else did I have here? Ask in Facebook groups, right? How many people ask things in Facebook groups? Look on YouTube, watch videos. We talk with people, right? We talk with people. We find books, find very specific books that explain or show things, right? We are wired to learn. And when we can see that our kids when we can acknowledge the learning that our kids are doing in different situations, then we can see we are doing enough most of the time. I will admit, I had times in our homeschool where we just needed a break. We just needed a break. We were burnt out, or people were getting sick, or the weather was crummy and just everybody's energies were down. I didn't know it at the time, but we were probably all ADHD. I knew one of them was for sure. The other one had a little hint on an assessment that was done, that had that assessment been done today, it would probably say, oh yes, the student has ADHD. Another one did get diagnosed with ADHD as a teen. It's come to our attention, my son, daughter, and I, that we undoubtedly have ADHD. So I forgot where I was going with this. Needing breaks. So we get to a point where we just take a week off, okay? And the weeks off were great, right? We needed to recharge, but at some point, recharging is no longer recharging, right? You just start feeling blah. You're just playing the games, watching the films, movies. Sorry, thinking in French. Watching the movies because you've gotten into this kind of unhealthy momentum, right? Then that's when my brain would kick in. It's like, you know what? We need to switch it up. And it wasn't I wasn't thinking it in terms of, are we doing enough? It was more like, we need to switch things up. We need to kind of get back into things. And so we would ease our way back into things because we did not do well just jumping back into the old routine. And we would have, we had our mix of kind of academic stuff, but we had lots of learning activities, science experiments, arts, crafts, building things. They had so many different like imaginary games going on from the 6-year-old to the 14-year-old all playing together. That is valuable learning. There's math that went into that because they're dividing things up. It's like, well, no, you only get that many because there's only this many. It doesn't divide equally. There's so many different things in real life. So, let's get to the point here, right? So, ASD learning, that makes our learning very interesting. Yes, absolutely. There's some great research platforms besides Google, something less biased and censored or government controlled. YouTube. YouTube is a search platform. Pinterest is another search platform. If you want like research stuff, you can do things like go to like encyclopedia sites. There's some specifically for kids, like Kiddle is one that comes to mind. There's another site that the kids are encouraged to use in school, and I can't think of it at the moment, Stormy. I'll see if my brain can come up with it, and I'll post it in the group, okay? So all ADHD and ASD, yeah. And then 2 of the kids that I was homeschooling had also been diagnosed with learning disabilities, so it was a standard curriculum was not going to work. And my son is very likely on the spectrum, which is part of the reason why he didn't read until later, because he just was not interested. When he was interested, when he wanted to do it, then fine. But otherwise, it was not going to happen. So games, like I said, games are a great way to learn. Card games, dice games, board games, just the games that they create. Going to the store, paying cash, or doing the mental math of like, well, how much is this going to cost? What should we, if we want to keep it under $20, let's say you're going to go buy all the ingredients to make a cake, right? That's learning, you guys, okay? I know so many of you don't want to accept it or you just think that it's not learning, but it is. Baking and cooking, all this stuff is using math, it's using science, it's using planning, it's working on those executive function skills, which those of us with ADHD do struggle with even more. All right. Figuring out mentally how much tax, if you live somewhere with sales tax, how much that'll be. All kinds of arts and crafts require counting, measuring, splitting up, organizing, right? This is all learning. It's all learning. There's science kits. You could probably go to the library every week and take out one science book in the kids section. That could be your curriculum for the year. One library book from the kid, or one science book from the kids section at the library every week. That is learning. A lot of us are so caught up in what counted in school. But what counted in school was for marks. It had to be something that a teacher could go, because it has to be more objective as possible. It has to be like, this is checked off, check, and then you get a mark. That's not necessarily education. That's one way education is happening, because it has to meet outside requirements, right? So talking about stuff is learning. It's learning grammar as you're hearing other people and you're having to use the grammar, or you're getting corrected mildly because mom is going, oh, yeah, we don't say I is, it's I am, right? That is learning. Explaining something about what you like, why you like something, why you liked this part of the movie, why you didn't like this part of the movie, why you like this character, why you don't like this character. That is part of learning. Think of what happens in school. Those of you I know some of you were homeschooled and you didn't necessarily get like the classroom experience for high school, but I think of high school, it wasn't all just read and write. Like, we had discussions. We went in deep into whatever it was we were reading, right? Stormy, you're in Alberta, right? Let me know if you're in Alberta. I'm pretty sure you're in Alberta. I know not everybody in the group is in Alberta, so I just want to make sure before I answer that question. Brainstorming ideas together is learning. You're like, but what are they learning? Any kind of learning. So we have this idea that learning is stuff going in, okay? Learning isn't just stuff going in. Learning is also getting the stuff that's in there to consolidate, to practice, to get firmer. Brainstorming is using different parts of the brain to plan and think and get creative. All right. Learning isn't just about stuff going in and being remembered. Okay, so Stormy, yeah, so high school diploma. You know what, that kind of doesn't fit within the video. I will answer that maybe in writing or maybe at the end. Maybe what I'll do is I'll end the YouTube and then keep going with that for a little bit. Let's see, science kits. You can get all kinds of different little science kits that can be played with over and over and over. Some you can't, but lots you can, like magnets and electricity and things like that. And the kids, my kids anyhow, went way beyond whatever was in the little instructions. They started with that and then they started creating their own things. Like, well, what happens if da-da-da? Anytime they're asking questions, that's learning, okay? It's exploring. Any kind of exploring counts. All right. I think I've already answered all of that. So I feel I do. This is a hard platform to really get to dive in deep. This would be better as a conversation on Zoom. And it's the kind of thing where I have had interactions with people about if something's been enough. And then a few months later or the next year, they're still struggling with it. So this is an area that I do plan on helping you with in my membership, which I'm hoping to get launched tomorrow. We'll see. I had said in a group my deadline was tomorrow, but then we've had toilet issues, a brand new fridge with like the water issue, and we will see. We will see. I will do my best to get up tomorrow. If not, I think I can do it on Saturday. So do keep your eyes open for that, or ask me questions about it if you think that you'd like a little more support in your homeschool journey. We will do things like taking, like in the Zoom call, or even just as kind of an assignment. I'm kind of considering it as school, especially since so many of you want these outside standards. We're going to call it a school, where we'll reflect on the week. What kinds of activities did you do this week? What kinds of activities did your kids do? And then I will help you see where the learning is, especially those of you who live somewhere where you need to have a portfolio or some kind of like documentation of learning. I know that when you get to the end of the year, there's that panic, because I did it too. It was like, oh my gosh, like I don't remember what all the stuff we did. So I'd write up as much as I could. So I hope to be for you what I needed for myself, was somebody to be on me to like get these memories down now, so that you have it written down and it's available for you when you are putting your year end together. I think that's it for now. So those of you on Facebook, stay there. I will be right there in a second. Those of you on YouTube, thank you so much. I hope I haven't been walking away from my brand new microphone too much. I don't know next week's topic, but I do plan on coming on live again next week. I might just explain the membership more next week. We'll see. For now, YouTube, ciao until next week.